Greetings and welcome to Monster Legends for another special feeding episode. This time we're going to be feeding a metal mythic I picked up in a breeding event named after him. I also got 4 Tankarions. And this is Blazinger! And Blazinger again is a mythic. He's metal, he's mechanical, a superhero, is very into family, and of course he is a quest monster. He unfortunately only has 1 open ruin slot, and you can see he's very depressed about that. I am too. So let's just find him a little home here. No, I'm not putting him in there, but I will put him in there. Okay, missiles are cool. Okay, so where is he? He is Pax. That's not actually a bad name for him. I might keep that. Alright, this is Blazinger. He is a mythic. He is metal. He has an evolving trait. Let's take a look at it. At rank 0, he is hardened, which means he has an additional 20% chance to resist negative status effects. At rank 1, that is upgraded to tough, which means he has a 35% additional chance to resist negative status effects. If he makes it to rank 3, he becomes an artifact, which means he is immune to all status effects, positive and negative, and that is very, very powerful. Alright, let's take a look at his stats. His strength is very good. His life is definitely well above normal. I think he's at about 58,000 at level 100. His speed is not too good, but then again, look at him, he's a big robot. Well, he's not big at the moment, he's going to be. So speed is definitely his weakness. Let's take a look at his initial skills. Let's begin with Blaz 2.0. Deals moderate metal damage to 1 enemy. Yeah, that's not really very good. And Muscle Body. Deals low metal damage to all enemies. Yeah, both of them are 0 cooldowns, but both of them have stamina, and both of them are very low damage, so yeah, those are throwaways. And of course, his special skill, Gigantic Torpedoes. Removes positive status effects from all enemies, disables trait on all enemies, deals heavy metal damage to all enemies. And that trait disables for 3 turns, so that's very, very useful. Dr. Watts used Blaz as a guinea pig for his most relentless experiments. However, this time, Dr. Watts didn't make tests on his servant. Instead, he cloned and evolved him as a separate creature. The result is Blazinger, an artifact he uses to torture his enemies without having to touch them himself. Well, he's only an artifact if you get him to rank 3. Just a small point there. Okay, so Dr. Watts is up to his evil tricks again. Well, let's turn the monster loose, but first we have to feed him, right? So let's get him up to level 4. See, I told you he was a big robot, so yeah, the speed thing, you can kind of understand that. Alright, let's get some skills. They start at level 7. Feel the heat. Deals low metal damage to all enemies, applies burn to all enemies. Alright, that's not so bad. 1 round cooldown. Burn them all. Alright, so let's get to level 10. More skills. Prepare for war. Deals moderate metal damage to 1 enemy, applies shock to 1 enemy, gives 50% of stamina to itself. Alright, so that is a decent hit. You know, it's about 35, I would guess, right? It is going to give the torture effect to your target, which means it'll block extra turning. More importantly, it's going to give him 50% stamina, and it requires no stamina to actually use this one. So if he gets all his stamina taken away from him, he can use this, and also it will refill half of his own stamina. And it has a 1 round cooldown, so I'm definitely going to be keeping that one. That one is just all kinds of useful right there. Alright, so let's get him all the way to level 20 for his next skill. I don't need an antivirus. Deals moderate metal damage to all enemies, applies nanovirus to all enemies, gives anticipation to itself. Alright, so the anticipation thing means that if there is an extra turner and he uses a skill that gives himself or somebody else an extra turn, he will act before that extra turn happens. So if there's an attack, it uses the attack and it's going to give an extra turn. As soon as that attack is done, his turn's going to come up. Now that's limited in usefulness. If there's nobody doing extra turns, that part's not useful. So we're going to look at the rest of the skill. Is the rest of the skill good? Well, it does, again, 35 damage, moderate, middle moderate damage, right? Gives them nanovirus, and it's got a 2-round cooldown. Not a bad stamina. So yes, it is, absolutely. And I do intend to keep that. So we're going to put it there because, yeah, I'm not keeping that skill. Woohoo, no way. Alright, so let's continue to level 25, another skill, Stay Safe. Removes all negative status effects from itself, heals itself by 50%, applies a 30% life shield to all allies. That is pretty darn good right there. I am going to put that there. If you're wondering why I'm taking that out, well, let's just say something is coming, right? Alright, so let's continue to level 30. What's waiting there? Feel the heat. Oh, we just got rid of that one there, didn't we? Yep. So we're not doing that one. So let's continue to 35. System Overload. Deals low special damage to all enemies. Applies shock to all enemies. Applies burn to all enemies. Disables trait on itself. Alright, for now, I'm going to keep that. I think that if you are less than rank 3, then this is safe enough to keep. I'm just going to put it there. If you are rank 3 and you're an artifact, I would absolutely not take this one. Because the best thing this guy has going for him is the ability to be an artifact. If you're an artifact, you can't be controlled, you can't have any torture effects put on you, you can't have any bad effects or any good effects put on you. That just makes you really deadly. Now, hardening and tough is good, but you know, this is not so bad of an attack, and I don't mind losing that trait for this kind of an attack. However, not artifact. But as long as he's under rank 3, I think that's okay. Alright, and we're actually done even though there's one more skill coming up. So let's just look at that last skill. Evil AI. Removes 50% of total life from one enemy. Applies possession to itself. Yeah, here's the thing. If you're rank 3, yeah, take this one. Taking half the life away from an enemy is kind of good, especially if it has a lot of health, which mythics do have these days, especially considering we're getting into the realm of the tanks, right, with mega taunting and such. However, if he is not an artifact, I do not want him possessing himself. That just sounds like a terrible idea. The way I see this one here is fine if he's under rank 3. If he's over rank 3, then the evil AI is fine. And since this guy is currently not rank 3, and is probably not going to be rank 3 for quite some time, yeah, I'm going to stay with System Overload. Alright, so let's just get him to 60, and then we'll go back and look at his skills again. Yeah, okay, nope. I mean, that's a good enough skill. It's lower damage. It's just that I'm already going to be setting them on fire, you know? So there's no reason for me to have it. Especially since you have the extra one being thrown in there, right? Alright, that one. And then we have one more left here. There we go. And we're done. So let's go in here and take a look around. Alright, the evil AI. No, that one right there. That is just too dangerous. I don't want my guy possessing himself. That just seems silly. That's fine if he's immune to it. But he's not immune to it himself until, of course, he's rank 3. Now, this one is good, but I already have this one, which I'm going to be using because it doesn't just do one torture effect, it does 2. It does around the same damage. Yes, it does have a higher stamina cost, and it does have a higher cooldown, but it does apply 2 torture effects. And even though it does disable his trait, torture effects are his thing. As long as he's under rank 3, I don't mind disabling his trait to use this skill. And then, of course, he has this one, which is going to give nanovirus, which is another torture effect, right down there. And it does block some positive status effects as well. And, of course, this one here, removing effects from himself, healing himself by half, and then giving a life shield to his friends, right? So I think that that's basically what I would stick with. I think if I was to get him to rank 3, I would swap these. Because once he's an artifact, I wouldn't disable his trait. That's what I would consider to just be foolish at that point. Alright, let's look at his stats again at level 60. Yes, his strength is pretty darn good. Really good. So even though he doesn't really have any high damage skills, I mean, he has moderate attacks, so I'm not really sure why his strength is so good, but you know what? It is, so that's okay. His life is pretty good too. 21,000 at level 60, not bad at all. He's going to come in just short, I think, of 58,000. Certainly better than a tank, we know, right? His speed is definitely his weakness. It's not really good at all, but that is kind of not what he does, so that's okay, right? He's going to be doing torture effects, he's going to be staying alive, he's going to be healing himself, taking bad effects off himself, refilling his own stamina so he can keep the torture effects coming, right? That's really what he does. And let's just take a look at his final skills again, the ones that I selected. We're going to start with System Overload. Deals low special damage to all enemies, applies shock to all enemies, applies burn to all enemies, disables trait on himself. Now, disabling his trait, that means he's going to be more susceptible to negative status effects. So, as long as he's not an artifact, I'm okay with this, because being able to put 2 torture effects on is just a really good thing. Then we have this one, I don't need an antivirus. Deals moderate metal damage to all enemies, applies nanovirus to all enemies, gives anticipation to itself. Alright, now that one does more damage. This one is low damage. This one is moderate metal, so his strength is definitely going to help with this one. Nanovirus is a torture effect that's going to do some blocking of positive status effects on its victims. Now, the anticipation part is a little bit situational. If there's nobody on the other side who does extra turn skills, well, then it's just a throw-in that doesn't really do anything. However, if there is somebody over there who does that, well, he's going to get his turn. He could just use this one then if he has it available and put shock on them so he can shut down the extra turning and, of course, refill his stamina, which is not such a bad thing. Then we have this one, Stay Safe. Removes all negative status effects from itself, heals self by 50%, applies a 30% life shield to all allies. It's going to take bad stuff off of him. Now, if he's an artifact, he doesn't have any bad stuff, unless he's disabled his own trait, that is. It's also going to heal him by half, which is good because he's going to have a good life. Chances are you might actually put a little bit of life on him too, so that 50% will probably be a bigger number. But then it also throws in this wonderful support thing where his entire team, including him, unless of course he's an artifact, will get a 30% life shield. So he's helping his team with that, which is a good thing indeed. And we already mentioned this one down here, which is a very useful skill. This is Prepare for War, deals moderate metal damage to one enemy, applies shock to one enemy, gives 50% of stamina back to itself. This one doesn't require stamina and has a 1-round cooldown. So if the fight begins with his stamina being taken away, or maybe he uses it up or something like that, then he can just use this skill, assuming it's available and his cooldowns have been activated, to refill his stamina in addition to do damage and put shock on somebody. So that is just a really good skill. You gotta hold on to that one. So this guy's got some good stuff to him. He's got some pretty good stats. The speed is a little bit on the slow side, but I think the life is kind of more or less the most important part for this guy. Staying alive and being able to refill his health by half makes him hard to kill, especially considering he's going to be doing torture effects. If you get him to artifact, then his gameplay is going to probably change a little bit. But then again, I guess that depends upon your play style. Now, for this guy, I think his survivability is kind of an important thing. I mean, you don't really need to give him a lot of strength because he doesn't have hard-hitting skills. I think 35 is the most damage he does with anything, so it's not like he's got like massive or very heavy or even heavy hits. I mean, you could put a strength on him, but you don't really need to put a lot on him. It's just that's what I'm saying with that. So I would definitely put 1 strength on him, and I would put a life on him, at least 1 life. At that point, you might want to go supporty, maybe with support damage or support speed or something like that. I might go support speed, or I might just say, you know what, why don't I throw an extra life on him? Make him really hard to kill. And he can restore half of it, and it might just be like a battle to the end at that point. I mean, if this guy had 2 big lives on him, and he was an artifact, he'd be really hard to kill, because you couldn't get any torture effects on him. And with him doing, mind you, reduced number of torture effects, it would be a really tough fight for somebody else to win. Unless, of course, they could disable his trait. Anyway, this is Blazinger. He's actually pretty interesting, pretty good. I can't wait to start testing with him. Anyway, thank you very much for your attention. I really appreciate it, and play games because games are fun. See ya!